Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Steam curled around me as the shower hummed softly, warm water sliding over my shoulders. I'd thought I was alone, wrapped in the quiet, in that blissful moment where the world felt far away. Then I heard it, the faintest shuffle behind the fogged glass. Before I could turn, the door eased open. A figure slipped inside, the air shifting instantly. My breath caught. Through the haze, I recognized him, my roommate's best friend, the one who had been staying with us for the week. The one who always held my gaze a little too long. The one who made my heartbeat quicken without even touching me. Water pattered between us as he froze, eyes widening, both of us drenched in surprise and something harder to name. His hand brushed my arm as he steadied himself, an accidental touch that sent heat spiraling through my chest. I thought no one was in here, he stammered, though his voice didn't sound as sure as his words. For a moment, neither of us moved. The steam blurred the lines between us, making everything feel closer, too close. His gaze lingered, shy but charged, like he wasn't sure whether to step back or step toward me. My pulse pounded loud enough that I wondered if he could hear it. The silence between us stretched, thick with something warm and forbidden, a pull neither of us had expected but couldn't seem to deny. I swallowed, trying to find my voice. He shifted, water dripping from the ends of his hair, eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Then he whispered, barely audible over the shower's spray, "Should I go? Or do you want me to stay?" And that was the moment everything changed. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The moment in the bathroom should have been brushed off, laughed away, forgotten. But the truth was, it didn't fade. It settled between us, an invisible thread tugging every time our eyes met. His name was Evan, my roommate's best friend, the guy who was supposed to be just passing through. He'd always been polite, respectful, a little shy. But underneath that softness, there was something else. Something I hadn't known how to name until that morning. For the rest of the day, we danced around each other like two people trying not to admit they were thinking the same thing. Evan lingered in the kitchen longer than usual, eyes drifting my way when he thought I wasn't looking. And I was no better. I kept replaying the accidental brush of his hand in the shower, the way he looked at me like he wasn't sure whether he belonged in that moment, or desperately wanted to. Behind the tension, though, there were deeper things neither of us said. I'd been lonely for months, caught in the remnants of a breakup that had quietly broken pieces of me I hadn't realized were fragile. My last relationship had been all surface, predictable words, empty promises, a closeness that never truly felt close. I'd forgotten what it felt like for someone to notice me, really notice me. Evan noticed everything. The way I tucked my hair behind my ear when I was nervous. The way I tapped my fingers when deep in thought. The way I avoided the living room on nights when memories of my ex made the apartment feel too quiet. And Evan had his own shadows. He'd been staying with us after a rough falling out with his partner, months of feeling unseen, unheard, unloved. He carried it in the way he exhaled too heavily sometimes, like he was trying to release something he didn't know how to put into words. Maybe that was why the morning felt so electric. Two people craving connection. Two people pretending they weren't. Two people who kept brushing past each other like sparks trying not to catch. Later that night, I found him on the couch, half lost in thought, the glow of the TV flickering over his face. I sat beside him without speaking, close enough to feel the warmth from his arm. He looked at me, too quickly, too intensely, then looked away just as fast. "You okay?" I asked softly. A pause. A long one. "Yeah," he whispered. "I just keep thinking about earlier." My chest tightened. Not with fear, but with something dangerous. something honest. And before I could stop myself, I said quietly, "Me too." The air tightened between us, thick and warm, like the space where a confession was supposed to go, but neither of us dared cross that line. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The days after our quiet confession on the couch became a slow, dangerous dance. Evan and I kept orbiting each other, pretending nothing had changed, while everything inside us had shifted. It was in the way he stood a little too close when handing me a mug of coffee, the way my breath caught when our fingers brushed, the way his eyes lingered half a second too long, full of something he tried hard to hide. But tension like that doesn't stay quiet forever. One evening, my roommate invited a few friends over. Nothing unusual: laughter, drinks, music. But when one of her friends, a charming guy named Lucas, sat beside me and leaned in a little too comfortably, I felt Evan's gaze burn from across the room. He didn't say anything at first. He just watched. His jaw tight. His grip tightening around his glass. Every time Lucas laughed at something I said, Evan's eyes sharpened, an emotion flickering behind them, jealousy, hot and surprising. When I excused myself to the balcony for air, Evan followed moments later, closing the sliding door behind him. The muffled sounds of the party faded, leaving only the cool night breeze between us. "You and Lucas seem close," he said quietly, too casual to be casual. I turned to face him. "He's just friendly." Evan's eyes held mine, steady and conflicted. "Yeah. I noticed." The air thickened again, just like in the shower, just like on the couch. Only this time, nothing was fogging it except the truth we kept trying to avoid. "You're jealous," I teased softly, stepping just a little closer, not enough to touch, but enough to feel the warmth radiating from him. He exhaled, frustrated with himself. "I don't have a right to be." "But you are," I whispered. His silence was an answer. The balcony light cast warm gold across his face, shadows deepening the tension in his expression. His eyes moved from mine to my lips, barely, but enough to send a tremor through me. He stopped himself, swallowing the impulse, gripping the railing like it was the only thing anchoring him. "I don't want to cross a line," he murmured, voice low, strained. "But every time someone else looks at you, it feels like..." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I stepped even closer, breath mingling with his, the unspoken words vibrating between us. "Like what?" I whispered. He closed his eyes for a moment, struggling, wanting, resisting. And when he opened them again, the look he gave me was the most honest one yet. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The night on the balcony changed everything, even if neither of us dared to say it out loud. After that, every moment felt charged, as if a single spark could set off something we wouldn't be able to walk back from. 2 days later, the apartment was quiet. My roommate had gone out for the evening, leaving just me and Evan in the echoing stillness. I tried to distract myself with mundane tasks, laundry, cleaning, anything to keep my mind from drifting to the way he'd looked at me outside, like he was fighting gravity itself just to keep from reaching for me. But when the power suddenly flickered off from a passing storm, plunging the apartment into dim gray light, it became clear that distraction was no longer an option. Evan appeared in the hallway, phone flashlight in hand, the soft beam catching on the rain dripping from his hair. He had stepped onto the balcony to bring in a chair just as the downpour hit. "You okay?" he asked, breathless, eyes searching mine in the low light. I nodded, though my pulse said otherwise. "Yeah. Just dark." He stepped closer, the faint glow of his phone creating shadows that danced across his face. The storm outside thundered, but somehow the silence between us felt louder. "Looks like it's just the two of us," he murmured. His voice was low. Too low. The kind of tone that stirred every memory of the moments we'd almost crossed that line. Lightning illuminated the hallway for a split second, and in that flash, I saw everything: the tension in his jaw, the warmth in his eyes, the flicker of longing he was no longer hiding. We ended up in the living room, sitting close on the couch because the storm felt strangely comforting together. Thunder rattled the windows, and each time it did, we inched closer without realizing. Or maybe we did realize, and just didn't care. At one point our knees brushed. Neither of us moved away. Evan swallowed, eyes fixed on where our legs touched. "This is getting really hard," he whispered, voice strained. "What is?" I asked softly, even though I already knew. He looked up, slowly, deliberately, and the emotion in his eyes made my breath hitch. "Trying to pretend I don't want you." The storm outside roared. Inside, the only thing louder was my heartbeat. I leaned in, barely, just enough for our breaths to mix. "Then stop pretending," I whispered. He inhaled sharply, the kind of breath someone takes right before giving in. And then, the front door handle rattled. We both froze. Footsteps. Voices. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The door handle stopped rattling, but the spell was already broken. Evan and I jerked apart as my roommate, Jenna, stepped inside, shaking rain out of her hair, humming like she hadn't just interrupted the most dangerously honest moment we'd shared yet. She didn't notice the tension immediately, but she noticed something. Her eyes narrowed just slightly as she glanced between us. The lights flickered back on at that exact second, washing the room in brightness that suddenly felt too revealing. "You two look weird," she said slowly. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said too quickly. "Yeah, just storm stuff," Evan added, rubbing the back of his neck like a guilty tell. Her eyes flicked between us again, suspicious, but she let it go. Only later did the real twist hit. Jenna was in the kitchen when her phone chimed. She read the notification and froze. A quiet, sharp inhale slipped from her lips, the kind of sound you only make when something hits too close. I moved toward her. "Jen? What's wrong?" She turned the screen toward me. It was an unread message. From her ex. Evan's ex. A single line: "Are you with him?" He stopped answering me. My stomach dropped. Evan looked up from the hallway, sensing the shift. When Jenna spun toward him, eyes blazing with a mixture of hurt and disbelief, everything inside the apartment shifted from simmering tension to explosive truth. "You didn't tell me she was still reaching out," she snapped. Evan stiffened. "Jen, I didn't think it mattered anymore." "It matters when she thinks I'm with you." The room felt too small, the air too sharp. I watched them, two people who had been best friends for years, stand on opposite sides of a truth neither had wanted to face. "You left without saying a word to her?" Jenna accused. Evan's shoulders sagged with a guilt I hadn't seen before. I wasn't running from her. I was running from feeling like I didn't matter to anyone. The admission silenced both of us. And then he looked at me. Right at me. "Until I came here," he said quietly. And realized I wasn't invisible. My pulse thundered. Jenna's brows lifted, realization crashing hard. "Oh," she whispered. "So that's what's been going on." The storm outside roared again, as if echoing the chaos inside. I opened my mouth to speak, to explain, or deny, or maybe finally admit what we'd been dancing around, but Evan stepped forward, something raw breaking through in his voice. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But I can't keep pretending I don't care about her." The room went still. Jenna stared between us, hurt giving way to something like sad understanding. And then she quietly said the one sentence that changed everything: you both need to decide if this is worth what you're about to lose." Her words hung in the air like a challenge and a warning. Evan looked at me, eyes full of conflict, longing, fear, and hope all tangled together. "Is it?" he whispered. I didn't answer, not yet. But my silence said enough to make his breath catch. Everything was on the edge now. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Silence filled the apartment after Jenna's words. Heavy. Honest. Unavoidable. Evan stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, his chest rising and falling like he couldn't seem to catch his breath. Jenna leaned against the counter, arms wrapped around herself, pain and frustration still flickering in her eyes. And I stood between them, caught, torn, shaken, realizing that we had finally reached the moment none of us could keep running from. Jenna broke first. "You should have told me," she whispered, voice cracking. "Both of you." I swallowed hard. "Jen, we didn't mean..." "No," she cut in, shaking her head. "I'm not mad that you care about each other. I'm mad because it happened right under my nose, and instead of trusting me, you both hid it." Her voice trembled. She wasn't angry anymore, she was hurt. And somehow, that made everything worse. Evan stepped forward slowly. "You've been my friend longer than anyone. I didn't want to lose that." "You lost it anyway," she replied softly. "Because you let me be the last to know." Evan's face fell. And I felt the blow of it too, the weight of secrets, the tension we'd let build into something too big to control. I took a breath, stepping closer to her. "Jen, if you want me to back off, I will. I never wanted to hurt you." She looked at me for a long moment, eyes searching, thinking. Then she exhaled shakily and rubbed her forehead. "I don't want you to back off," she said finally. "I just need honesty. From both of you." The room shifted. Something vulnerable and fragile settled between us. A space where truth could finally breathe. Evan moved closer to me, stopping a few feet away, hesitant but steady. "I care about you," he said, voice low, raw. "More than I planned. More than I should have. But I do." Jenna watched him, analyzing, evaluating, then slowly nodded. "And what do you want?" she asked me gently. I felt every emotion rise at once: fear, hope, longing, confusion. But beneath all of it lay something simple and undeniable. "I want to stop pretending I don't feel anything," I admitted. "And figure out where this goes. Even if it's messy. Even if it scares me." Evan's breath caught. Jenna gave a tiny nod, not full approval, but acceptance. "Then you two better do it right," she said. "No more secrets." A crack of thunder echoed outside, but the tension finally broke, not with distance, but with clarity. Evan looked at me. Really looked. Not with hesitation this time, but with the steady certainty of someone choosing something, someone, on purpose. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. I nodded. Jenna stepped aside, giving us space, giving us permission. And the moment she did, something in Evan shifted. His shoulders relaxed. His expression softened. We weren't fixed. We weren't finished. But for the first time, everything felt real, painfully, beautifully real. He held out his hand slightly, not touching me, just offering the possibility. I stepped forward. The next decision would change everything, for him, for me, for all of us. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The apartment felt quieter after Jenna stepped out to give us privacy, not empty, but lighter, as if the storm outside had finally settled inside us too. Evan stood in the middle of the living room, running a hand through his hair, trying to steady the emotions that had been building for days. I watched him for a moment, seeing past the tension to the vulnerability he'd been trying so hard to hide. When I finally walked toward him, he didn't move away this time. He exhaled softly. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "About the way everything happened, about hiding things, about dragging you into my mess." "You didn't drag me," I said gently. "I walked into it. Willingly." His eyes met mine, searching, hopeful. "Even after all this?" I nodded. "Especially after all this." He smiled, just a little, the kind of smile that comes from relief more than happiness. It softened the edges of everything that had been hard between us. For the first time since the moment in the shower, there was no tension waiting to snap. Just truth. "I don't want to hurt Jenna," he said quietly. "You won't," I replied. "As long as we're honest." He stepped closer, the space shrinking between us but not rushing, not pushing, just two people coming together after circling each other for far too long. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Of course. I didn't fall for you because of the tension, or the moments we almost slipped. I fell because you made me feel seen. Like I mattered again." Something warm bloomed in my chest, overdue, steady, comforting. "And you made me feel chosen," I whispered back. "Not just noticed." He breathed out, and the relief in that breath carried every emotion we'd been holding in. We ended up on the couch, not touching, not rushing, but sitting close enough for our shoulders to almost meet. Outside, the storm finally faded into a gentle drizzle. Inside, the air felt different. More open. Evan turned slightly toward me. "So where do we go from here?" I smiled. "Forward. Slowly. Honestly. Together." He paused, then reached out his hand. Not grabbing, not pulling, just offering. I placed my hand in his. A soft, grounding warmth spread through me, not the electric shock of temptation, but something deeper. Something stable. Something real. At that exact moment, Jenna returned, glancing at our joined hands. She gave a small, tired smile, not fully healed, but supportive. "Well," she said softly, "looks like you two figured something out." Evan squeezed my hand gently, and for the first time, there was no fear attached to it. Just promise. The storm had passed. The tension had settled. And something new, something steady, warm, and quietly romantic, finally took its place. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of something worth choosing. 1.